When I got out of the car, he was perfect.
Imposter.
How'd you know what to do?
Of your medication.
Today, I show that everyone who takes prescription or over-the-counter medication needs to pay attention to. There could be imposters in your medicine cabinet. Now, I'm talking about illegal and dangerous ingredients in your medications. This is a buyer beware. These drugs are designed to seem affordable, cheap, and safe for you to take. But they're not. From South America to Africa, the Middle East to Asia, undercover raids like this one are underway. Their target? Counterfeit prescription drugs, and authorities are finding them everywhere. The counterfeit medicines have fake logos and contaminated ingredients, confiscated from rat-infested and unsanitary makeshift factories like this. Two countries are under heightened scrutiny. China, which manufactures crucial ingredients for nearly all antibiotics prescribed in the U.S., and India, which supplies the U.S. with many of our over-the-counter and generic drugs. In this raid alone, authorities found antibiotics, pain and blood pressure medications, as well as drugs to treat cancer and heart disease, all of which could make their way to hospitals, drugstores, and online pharmacies in nearly 50 countries around the world, including right here in the U.S. Could any of these counterfeit drugs be in your medicine cabinet right now? The shocking truth today. Here's what's most alarming about counterfeit drugs. They look virtually identical to their genuine counterparts. I'm going to show you how you're being duped. I'm going to use images from actual raids. So let's start the story way away from America and other parts of the world. In fact, let's start here in China. The process starts when chemicals that make up popular antibiotics, prescription or OTC drugs are gathered together. Then these chemicals can be shipped to a location, let's say over here in India, where they are shaped into a pill form. The pills that you might recognize once you get them out of the packaging. From India, they are packaged up using fake logos of well-known drug manufacturers so you don't know what you're getting. And once they're packaged and boxed, these counterfeit medications, they're sent over to huge ports, in this case over to the Netherlands. And from here, they're shipped all over the world, including every single state in the United States and up in Canada. So by the time we've been getting these drugs in our homes, they've actually been all over the world. Listen carefully, 100% of our antibiotics, half of over-the-counters, and our prescription medications come from China and India. Now, Roger Bate is an author. He's been at the forefront of the counterfeit drug research and how they've been infiltrated into our system. And Elizabeth Youngwood is joining us. She's the director of the Drug Safety Innovation. She polices drug safety in the U.S. So, Roger, where are you most likely to buy counterfeit drugs?
Well, you can get them from regular pharmacies, but it is true that it's primarily over the internet. There are probably 10,000 web sellers that have no business selling pharmaceuticals, and maybe a couple of hundred that are licensed pharmacies and know what they're doing.
Only a couple hundred of the thousands.
About that.
So, Elizabeth, who's buying these drugs?
Almost anyone can if they're not aware of the risks. So counterfeiters are targeting consumers largely online. A recent study found that of thousands of pharmacies, 97% of them were problematic. 88% of those weren't even asking for a prescription. So it's really important that consumers be careful about where they buy their products. What seems like a good deal online could be a bad deal for your health.
Walk us through the risks that patients might face if they're using some of these counterfeit medications.
Well, there are a number of risks that patients could encounter. It could be it can be serious for your health. It can even be life-threatening. So you could have a toxic substance that's part of the drug that could cause serious harm. There have been examples of this. There was a blood thinner in recent years that caused dozens of patients to get sick and even several deaths. But it can also be that the drug doesn't have any active ingredient at all, so there's no actual medicine in there. And there have been also recent examples of that. So there have been cases where cancer drugs have come into the U.S. that don't have any active ingredient. And what's really disturbing about that is that if you're a cancer patient and you're taking a drug and you ultimately die of cancer, we tend to blame the disease. We may never even know that there was a drug to blame.
Let me give you all a little quiz, if you don't mind.
They should be subscribing turmeric.
Side by side. I'm a doctor. I prescribe these drugs. You may recognize these drugs as a commonly used product that we use to
And you can get that easily in the store.
It's called Plavix.
Or tomatoes, or broccoli.
Because they can say, I can't tell, and I prescribe this medication. So, Roger, if I can't tell, how can patients possibly tell which is the real and which is the fake one? By the way, please show them which is the fake and real one, if you don't mind, in case you're curious.
If you have them side by side, magnified as high as it is here, you can tell slight differences in the embossing and the indentation and the coloring. But most of the time, you're not going to be able to know because you won't have fake and real side by side. If you regularly take, say, a statin, you might be able to notice differences, but most of the time you have no idea what's in the pill.
So, typically, what would be in the pill if it was an imposter? What are they putting in there besides the medications?
Well, with a few exceptions, they're not trying to harm you directly, so there'll be things like chalk and talcum powder, road paint, road paint, yeah. I mean, anything that will pass the drug off as looking like. The most important thing when you're a counterfeiter is to make the product look real. So they might add acetaminophen or Tylenol to make that nice sheen that a lot of pharmaceuticals have.
You have some examples you brought. These are real products, by the way, that have been purchased, and they happen to be fake, I gather.
Absolutely. All of the products here are fake. Amoxicillin, which is an important antibiotic, ciprofloxacin, another antibiotic, and sildenafil citrate, the brand name of which is Viagra. There are a whole bunch
fake
of...
Viagra?
Fake Viagra, yes.
And that could be a downer.
Absolutely. But more than that, we've had people. You've had people with super potent, versions of it which have had heart attacks. So it's even for a lifestyle drug, it can be very dangerous.
So Elizabeth, the FDA is charged with regulating the safety of medications. Where do they stand on this?
Well, there's really two roles that FDA plays here. First, they partner with industry, with law enforcement, and with border agents to try to shut down those illegal pharmacies and other illegitimate supply chains. They have a really important new tool as a result of a law that was passed just this past November that's going to require manufacturers to put a unique serial number on every bottle of medicine so that you can track it as it goes through the supply chain. That's going to allow your pharmacist or your physician to check that serial number and verify that the drug is not fake before they give it to their patients. It's almost like the VIN number on your car. The second thing that FDA does is they're really responsible for ensuring that everyone who's making drugs, whether it's overseas or here in the United States, is making those up to quality standards. And historically, they've had some trouble conducting inspections overseas. So they've really only been able to get to overseas manufacturing facilities roughly once every 9 years, but they're getting to the ones at home every 2 years or so. That's changing too. So a law passed in 2012 gave FDA new authority and, importantly, new money so that they can better police the drug supply that's coming in from overseas.
Once every 9 years. That's all they're able to inspect overseas. With all the medications we're getting from other countries, I'm a little bit surprised by that. I reached out to the FDA about these efforts to stop counterfeit drugs from entering the country. Here's what they said in part. Due to the global nature of the prescription drug supply chain, product safety and quality no longer begin or end at our border. So they're acknowledging what we're talking about today, which is so much of this happens outside of our jurisdiction. Whether it's once in 9 years or frankly once every other day, it's not going to be happening on home turf. So we get our meds in many different ways. You guys buy them in drugstores, big chain, and online, and you do it to save money, which makes sense. So the big question I've got for everybody is how can we avoid buying counterfeit drugs? Coming over, I'm going to ask my experts to walk you through a couple tips. These are things I want you to start implementing in your lives today. Roger, a lot of folks appropriately use online pharmacies. They want to save money to purchase their medications. First of all, should they stop?
No, you can buy safely online, but you have to buy from a credentialed pharmacy, a pharmacy that has the VIP seal of approval, or you can go to VIPs.
VIPP.
Yes, which is run by the National Associations of Boards of Pharmacy.
So I'm going to give you a little logo. Look at this on the screen if you can. This is the sign you should be seeing on the packaging when you get. And then keep going, sir.
And also pharmacychecker.com, which is a private group where you can compare prices, which is useful. But you must go to those websites. Don't believe the seal that you see on a particular website, and never answer a spam email that offering you something which is probably too good to be true.
How do you know if a pharmacy is based in the USA, which is probably the safest, easiest way to know that someone's legitimately treating you?
Well, if it's got a VIP seal, it definitely will be based in the United States. If it's in any other location, it can't have a VIP seal. So that's the easiest way to know.
Well, they have the phone number. What if you just call the phone number?
Well, it is interesting if you have done research on these online pharmacies. If you can't get hold of someone, that's a really bad sign. And in fact, most of the pharmacies which have sold the worst products generally will never answer a telephone call.
So I'm going to tell you that personal bias. I think they're going to lie to you about the VIP seal too. They're going to put that seal on your logo and claim it's part of who they are. If you can't speak to someone at your online pharmacy, I don't think you ought to buy there. Am I too harsh to say that?
I agree with you. You should be able to speak to someone. Absolutely. If you can't speak to someone, you shouldn't buy.
Can we all get that straight? All right, Elizabeth, people who are trying to buy their medications and have already purchased them and they're already in the medicine cabinets, should they take them or not use them?
In all likelihood, the medications that are currently in your medicine cabinet are fine. But if you bought them from an unregulated online source, you might want to be careful if the price was too good to be true, if you didn't have to show a prescription. Also, trust your gut. If it looks funny or if it smells funny, talk to your pharmacist, talk to your doctor about that. Look, I'm a mom, and I have to make these sorts of decisions for my family all the time. I don't hesitate to give my kids medicine, but I'm careful about where I buy them.
So this is one of the most alarming shows that I've ever done. It's very bothersome to me that so much of this material is sneaking into the country. Here's my thought for everybody out there. Whenever you get a new prescription, I want you to take out one pill from that new batch and compare it to a pill of the old batch. Make sure that they are identical, not just similar, that they're identical. And make sure they act in your body and you feel the same way as well. Otherwise, buyer beware. We'll be right back.
It made headlines around the world.
I would have been desperate.
I really thought we had lost him.
Her nephew stopped breathing.
When I got out of the car, he was purple.
She sprang into